So I'd ask that you stand for the land acknowledgement if you're able. Oh, Trustee Wong was there a moment ago. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. We acknowledge as we're hosts on the lands of the Mississauga, of the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nation, Métis, Inuit people. Thank you. So the first order of business tonight is to conduct election of the chair. I declare nominations for the chair of the Audit Committee to be open. Are there any nominations? Trustee Arts? We have Trustee Laskin nominated. Do we need seconders for this? Trustee Arts nominated Trustee Laskin.
I would second that. That's Robin Pilkey.
Thank you. Is there any other people that would like to stand as chair of the committee? Seeing no others nominations, I'll close the nominations. Trustee Laskin, are you willing to accept the chair of the committee?
I am. Thank you very much, committee members.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Hearing and seeing none. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda?
Robin.
Thank you, Ms. Pilkey. Seconded. You know what? I can't even. Thank you. I'll do seconded by Naveen Bala. Thank you. Sorry, I can't read the names looking this way. I have to go this way. It's a problem. Thank you very much. And I'll need another motion, please, to approve the meeting minutes of June 26, 2023. And now I'm really in trouble because I can't see anybody.
Ms. Pilkey.
Robin Pilkey.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pilkey, seconded by Ms. Arts, Trustee Arts. Any questions? All in favor, please show hands or say aye. Thank you very much. We're going to move to delegations. Are there any delegations? Thank you. Actually, the door should probably be open, but no problem. There is an oral update. It says chair's update, but at this particular time, I have nothing to update except to say that we did hear back from the Attorney General's, the Auditor General's office, not the Attorney General, Auditor General's office.
Trustee Laskin, only because of the parameters set by the auditors. I'm not sure if the update I think you're about to give.
No problem. I will not give any update on that particular matter until we
Perhaps in private.
Next agenda. Thank you for being diligent. So we're going to move to committee matters. 8.1 are 2024 meeting dates, and it's an oral update. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 8.1, the committee meeting dates for the 2024 calendar year. After the last meeting of calendar 2023, which is scheduled for this December 4th, the dates for the 2024 calendar year proposed are March 18th, June 24th, September 16th, and December 2. All meetings are planned to be held on a Monday from 4 to 6 p.m. If those dates are okay with the committee, we can go ahead and work with board services to book. Sure. The dates are March 18th, June 24th, April 16th, and December 2nd of 2024.
There may be some trustees that have a concern about the June 24th meeting, since that's usually smack in the middle of graduation week. I'm wondering if you might consider moving it a week, if possible.
Through you, Madam Chair, let us speak with board services and we can bring it back to the next audit meeting.
We would,
We'll attempt to move
speaking
it
on
back
behalf
a
of
week.
the trustee members of this committee, we would appreciate that.
Noted.
8.2 are the annual audit.
Chair Alaskan, I have my hand up.
I'm very sorry. It's very
I don't
difficult
know
for
what
me
you
to
can see
see.
and what you can't see.
Yes, so I would really appreciate it, even though this probably isn't protocol. If you would like to speak, please don't interrupt anybody, but could you say, please, I would like to speak with your name? I would really appreciate that because it's very difficult to manage the screen and people in the room. So especially when I don't see everybody on the screen all the time, since items are being shown in the room, really need another screen, and I should have logged in, which I might do. Please, Ms. Pilkey.
Thank you and again, I will try not to interrupt anyone who is speaking. I just wanted to confirm, if through you, Madam Chair, to staff, that the December 2nd date that the financials, that works with Deloitte, that the finance, because that's a little bit earlier, I think, than in prior years, maybe by a week. So I'm wondering, I'm just confirming the financial, because that's the meeting we passed the financial statements, is it not?
Through you, Madam Chair, that would be the meeting for financial statements, and we should be able to make that date.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions? Hearing none, we will move on now to committee matters. Continuing 8.2, the annual audit committee reports.
Through you, Madam Chair, Audit Manager Wasif Hussein will walk you through this report.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 8.2, the annual audit committee reports. The committee prepares 2 reports annually, with Appendix A being the report to the Ministry of Education. Now, the Ministry of Education only requires the regional internal audit activities to be reported, and Appendix B includes all audit activities, including administrative items completed by the audit committee. So once reviewed and approved and signed by the audit chair, these will be presented to the board, and once passed through the board, we will be submitting Appendix A to the Ministry of Education. If there's any questions, I can take them at this time.
Do any of the committee have any questions?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's Robin Pilkey. I have some questions.
Please.
Thank you, through Madam Chair, to Wasif, on page 14, which lists the planned audit. The contractual compliance says it's to be presented in September 2023. I believe that is actually December now, reading further along in the report. Is that correct?
That is correct. I will make that change prior to submission.
All right, thank you. And the other activity that the audit committee took part in was a meeting with the Ontario Auditor General. That is not mentioned in this report. Is that on purpose?
I believe that meeting has not happened yet. There was a oral update, but if there was a meeting, I can include that as well.
Well, through you, Madam Chair, we were invited to the meeting with the Auditor General in August.
Yes, we were, but I believe that's to be considered private and confidential.
And if I can just add, that meeting was organized by the Auditor General, not by Tdsb, as part of our governance.
Okay, all right. Since this is the report of the activities of the Audit Committee, I wanted clarification on that.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Would you like to continue, or should there be receipt of this particular item? Staff?
If there's no other questions, we're happy to vote for receipt of this item.
Thank you very much. Who would like to move this? Please state your name. Thank you. Trustee Arts, we need a seconder.
Seconder Naveen.
Thank you so much. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Carrying on now to the 8.3, the Audit Committee Self-Assessment and Assessment of TDSB Internal Audit.
And through you, Madam Chair, Wassef will continue on his role.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 8.3, the committee self-assessment and the assessment of Tdsb internal audit. Annually, a self-assessment questionnaire is issued to the committee and responses are tabulated with the average scores being presented. Items that are marked they're statements with items marked 1 through 5, 5 indicating strong agreement. So I will go through all the items that were rated at a 3 or lower, along with an action plan, or we will be soliciting recommendations from the committee members. So the first two items relate to training. And while the committee was provided orientation sessions in January and February this year by the regional internal audit team, as well as public sector accounting standards presented in June by our external auditors, we would like to solicit feedback from the committee as to specific items that they would be interested in knowing more about. And I can work with management to deliver that education session. So I can note if there's any recommendations for orientation or education sessions, I can note them at this time.
Hearing that, committee members, are there any comments at this time? I'm now logged in so I can see if anybody has their hand up. And I'm not seeing anything at this particular time.
Through the chair, I can issue a separate email for members to contemplate as to what items they would like presented, and I can work with management to ensure that happens.
I think that would be an excellent follow-up. Thank you very much. All in favor, please, to receive this report? Sorry, a motion?
There's-
I believe we have a mover on it.
I'm asking for is there a mover of the motion? Thank you, Trustee Art, seconded by?
For you, Madam Chair, a
Trustee
point of
Wong.
clarification.
Oh, certainly. Thank you.
I was under the impression that our internal auditor was only going to send something. Is he sending something on everything that's 3 and below, or just the one that is the new audit committee members' participation? The 2 points at 3, because there was many items at 3.0 and some at 2. So I'm confused as to what our internal auditor is going to do on this.
I can walk through the rest of the items, but what I did is I broke down each item, and where there's specific requests for specific information, I want to pause and take that feedback at that point in time. Or what I can do is consolidate all the items and request feedback in an aggregate email.
All right, because I would comment that many of these I think, is the feedback. So additional feedback, I'm unclear on that, what exactly the purpose of that, through you, Madam Chair. I understand maybe additional feedback on training, but some of the others were fairly direct that this was a concern. I'm not sure what additional feedback is required.
So I can go through the remaining items on the assessment, and for every item that's rated at 3 or less, if that's okay with the chair.
Is that what you would like, Ms. Pilkey?
Well, I'm looking in particular to the items that are like 2.7, and one of them is an item that has come back to this committee, I think, every year that we have done this on this committee, about the timing of the information being circulated to the members, including the members who are not trustees. And yet it consistently is below 3. So I guess my question is, what further feedback is required?
Or are you looking for staff to come back to us with how some of the items that were rated below 3 will be addressed over the coming year?
I think that would be helpful, but I would particularly note that one is consistently rated poorly. I'm not sure what feedback, at this point, I'm not sure if there's any point in asking this question anymore because it's not been addressed.
Understood, and I think staff hear you. And
Through you, Madam Chair, we'll take back everything below 3 and work with the internal auditor and bring a report on what our suggestions are for your consideration to improve the performance in those areas.
Thank you. That would, through you, Madam Chair, if that could be done, it would be appreciated.
thank you very much. Sorry that I called the vote too quickly. Were there any other comments? Seeing and hearing none, that was moved by trustee Art, seconded by trustee Wong. All in favor? Thank you very much. That carries. Again, now we're moving on to the whistleblower program. It is item 9.1, and there is a report, the annual report. Mr.
Madam
Snyder?
Chair, I'll ask Lorraine Linton, Executive Superintendent of Employee Services, to present this report.
Good afternoon, and through the chair. At this time, our manager, Nazia Rahim, is here and will be able to present the information to trustees. Thank you. Nazia?
Good afternoon, everyone. Through the chair, I'm here to present the annual whistleblower report for 2022. As you all know, the report is broken down into two sections. The first section is an overview of the policy and the whistleblower system, which are reflected on pages 2 to 9 of the report. The second section is an analysis of the concerns brought forth in 2022. This is reflected on pages 10 to 20 of your report. The whistleblowing system was introduced in 2016 in response to the public's request for a whistleblower policy at the Tdsb. The system that we use is a third-party platform called Integrity Counts. The purpose is to allow employees, students, parents, and members of the public to raise concerns about suspected wrongdoing of a Tdsb staff while ensuring protection from potential reprisal. Concerns can be submitted through the third-party company by filling out a form or by email or telephone. The service is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's also made available in both English and French. It can also be interpreted into 220 different languages. The system is made available through accessible. It's made accessible through Tdsb links in our intranet site and the internet.
Excuse me for a second. Are you going to present your PowerPoint as we go along, just so that the people can follow the report?
Sure, I could do that.
Thank you.
Do I have share screen abilities?
Yes, you do.
Sorry, are you able to see my screen at the moment?
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you.
Perfect. Sorry about that.
Can you make it bigger?
Could you make it go into the...
No.
Thank you.
Nazia, are you able to make it into the PowerPoint share?
If you start PowerPoint, it'll take the whole screen. You won't have the sidebar. It'll make it bigger for people in the room to read.
Sorry, Craig. Through slideshow?
Yeah, start slideshow. It'll then take the sidebar and make your slide bigger on the screen, take the full screen.
Sorry, there's a bar that comes up.
At the top.
Is that okay?
There you go. Yeah, that's
There you
Perfect.
go.
Thank you, Nazia.
thank you.
Sorry. So as I was saying, concerns can be submitted through the integrity counts. And when a concern is submitted, it's submitted through to the employee services team, the investigations team. Each case is reviewed and a decision is made whether or not to investigate. When submitting a concern, the reporter can select from 3 different levels of confidentiality. Strictly anonymous, which means no contact information is provided to a third-party company or TDSB. Anonymous to the TDSB, that means their contact information is provided to integrity counts, but not to the TDSB, or contact information is provided to both parties. I note that even if the reporter chooses to remain anonymous, we do have a mechanism built into the system where the investigators can communicate with the reporter. Okay. Commencing on page 10 of the report, I will share some highlights of the 2022 statistics. As you will notice, there's been an increase year after year in reported cases from 169 in 2021 to 225 in 2022. That's a 33% increase. For the last 3 years, we've received a total of 509 cases, and 487 are closed. 22 still remain open as we continue to investigate. As you will see, most of our complaints are coming through from the web and emails, and that's in line with more people utilizing technology. Let me just raise my... approximately 50% of our reporters are providing their contact information. 39% are remaining strictly anonymous. Cases reported by source, you'll note from 2021 to 2022, there is an increase of employees reporting from 36% to 44%. There's a decrease in the rest of the categories. From the members of the public went down from 21% to 16%. Students went down from 15% to 10%. Parents remain relatively the same, from 27% to 29%. Actually, it went up a little bit. 73% of our cases are coming out of the schools, and this is reflected here. On page 15 and 16 of this report, we've seen a drastic increase in the number of cases and abuse and neglect from 11 in 2021 to 62 in 2022. And these are comparisons. We've also seen a drastic increase in concerns related to human rights grounds from 21 in 2021 to 82 in 2022. In those two categories alone, abuse and neglect of our students and a human rights protected ground totaled 144 cases in 2022, which equates to 64% of the cases. The other category, it remains the highest category, but when you break it down, it's really not. Some of the matters relating to TDSB policy decisions, like the vaccination policy, virtual learning, Heritage Month, for example, you'll see within the other category. On this page, on page 17 of the report, I'll highlight of the 225 cases reported in 2022, 17% were substantiated. That's a decrease of 5% from 2021. However, there was an increase in partially substantiated. That rose from 3% to 20%. In 2021, 25% of our cases were either substantiated or partially substantiated. In 2022, that number rose to 37%. That's an increase of 12%. This is in line with the number of complaints we are receiving. We received a total 33% more cases this year. And as a result, we're conducting more investigation and action is being taken to remedy the situation. Subject to any other questions, that is the highlights of the whistleblower report.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I know that there were some questions submitted by Joy Chow, who was not able to be here tonight. So on her behalf, I'll ask. And if others have questions, please let me know. The question is, the partially substantiated and the substantiated whistleblowing reports have doubled versus last year. The question is why, and what is the plan to address? And are there risks, if any?
That's an excellent question. Through the chair, that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking. In 2021, we saw 25% of the cases being substantiated or partially substantiated. The number actually didn't double. It went up 12% to 37%. This is in line with the number of complaints we are receiving. We received a total of 33% increase from 2021. So as a result, the investigations team and the system is conducting more investigations. So you'll see more substantiation or partially substantiated. I would say the numbers are a reflection that the system is actually working. Concerns are being raised and action is being taken to address those concerns. When a case is substantiated or partially substantiated, the TDSB takes corrective action to remedy the matter. This could include discipline or process changes to our processes. I don't see any risk I would be more concerned if we saw a 33% increase in reported cases and no action was being taken. It shows that this system is actually moving and the TDSB is taking concerns very seriously, and we're taking measures to address those concerns.
Thank you very much. I have a question from Trustee King. Trustee King, please go ahead.
Thank you through the chair, and thank you to staff for the report. I'm not a member of the committee, but I am interested in just a little bit more information. I'm specifically looking at agenda page 44, it's 15 on your slides. And I'm just thinking back to April of this year when trustees received a report from the Human Rights Office, and we looked at the number of complaints there, and we were able to look at the different categories of grounds of discrimination for the 21-22 year. And I'm just curious about the relationship and the overlap of the data that we're seeing here as being kind of the same or distinct cases. So I guess my more specific question is, how much staff might know about what's being captured here that might not be reflected in human rights, either complaints or incidents reported through the portal?
So through the chair, the whistleblower system, it's handled by my team for the intake. When we have a human rights protected ground, those complaints are forwarded to the Human Rights Office and then reciprocal. So they will address, and then my team will follow up, or they will provide feedback, or they will investigate, or they'll do their threshold assessment, investigate, and if corrective action needs to be taken, that's reported through the whistleblower system. So the report that you would have seen through the HRO, it's part and parcel with this data. So it's not two different type of numbers. It's just a different mechanism in which we are receiving the intake of the complaint. Does that make sense?
Through the chair, I think so. Would it be correct to say then that it's possible that one incident could be reflected in the numbers reported through both channels? Or would the resolution force it into one of or the other?
It will go through the chair. It would go through, it will be counted as one. It would just be a mechanism in which, rather than an email that the Human Rights Office receives, they're receiving the complaint through the whistleblowing system, but it's counted as a one complaint. So
I understand.
There's no double counting.
Through the chair, I understand. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm wondering if that might be a note referencing back to the human rights report, if that might be an explanatory note that would be added to the annual report, and vice versa. Whoever is listening that has jurisdiction in human rights, there should be a reciprocal, and maybe you could follow that up through staff.
Through the chair, I will endeavor to follow up with my colleague on the other end.
Thank you very much. Are there any other
questions? Thank you for that
questions?
information as well.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions on the whistleblower annual report? Thank you, Trustee Arts.
Thank you. I'm just wondering through you, Madam Chair, there's a very tiny item listed as policy change required. I was wondering if staff could comment on which policies that reflects.
Through the chair, it could vary. We've seen a lot of complaints coming through from the vaccination policy, and it was in line with when the policy was no longer in effect. So that's where it was reflected.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, again, may I please have a motion to receive this report? Thank you, Trustee Art, seconded by, I'm looking online, seconded by Ms. Pilkey. All in favor? Any opposed? Then that report is received. Thank you very much, and thank you, staff, for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're moving on now to the internal audit reports. Are these going to be presented one at a time, or are they going to be presented in a group?
One at a
I
time.
believe so. You
One
Madam
at a
Chair,
time?
that it was.
Thank you very much. Through you, staff, then?
I'll turn it over to Wasif Hussain, our manager of audit, to take you through most of these reports.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 10.1, the TDSB internal audit status and engagement update, beginning on agenda page 71. So as indicated previously, due to resource constraint, the incident reporting and disability case management engagements have been outsourced and handed off to the regional internal audit team to perform this school year. We will be presenting our cyber risk assessment process review as well as the student information system migration testing reports at this meeting. We have completed the testing for a contractual compliance review and are in the process of drafting the report and aim to present it in the December audit committee meeting. We will also be presenting as part of this package our annual audit plan, which we have modified slightly given the circumstances to try and increase coverage and reduce risk exposure at the school level. Additional items we provide include awareness sessions to school administrators, ongoing sample testing of expense claims, as well as supporting departments with their Ontario Auditor General requests. We have been recently informed also that the GRC module received approval for implementation, and we will be working with the IT team to utilize this platform to move away from our manual system and leverage automation. With respect to the Ontario Auditor General, we have submitted our 22-23 update for the annual IT follow-up, and we anticipate the final report to be issued in early December. There are 3 recommendations left to address, one of which relates to mandatory training. With respect to this, we have indicated to the Auditor General that we will not be implementing their recommendation due to the costs involved. However, we remain willing to work with the ministry to address this at a provincial level. We do have training available, but it has not been made mandatory, specifically due to the cost of having substitutes teachers come in to cover school staff while they take this training. With respect to the ongoing operational value for money audit currently being conducted, we believe that the Auditor General has reached out to the committee members to discuss that separately. So I can take any questions at this time with respect to the status update, or I can just jump ahead into the remaining items.
Let's just wait a moment to see if anyone has any questions on this particular item.
Through you, Madam Chair, just a clarification.
Please.
Is there going to be a discussion? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I've gone ahead of myself. My mistake. I have no questions on this one.
No problem. So any questions on this internal audit department status update? Seeing none, can I get a motion to receive? Thank you, Trustee Art, seconded by Trustee Pay. All in favor? Any opposed? Then that's received. Thank you very much. Please continue now with the TDSB Internal Audit Management 2023-2024 plan.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 10.2, the 23-24 audit plan, beginning on agenda page 79. So for the current year, we're proposing 25 school audits with a focus on new principals. We feel this approach allows new principals, provides them with a control assessment of their school and highlights opportunities for improvement that incoming leadership can address. We are augmenting this approach by performing an analysis on school-generated funds as well for all schools. The aim of the analysis is to identify outliers where further analysis is conducted to ascertain the cause. For fluctuations where a reasonable cause cannot be identified, we have specified procedures over the non-board funds, and we will be conducting those specified procedures on those specific schools. So we believe this approach allows for a control assessment to be provided, as well as addressing unexplained financial variances. And over the course of the summer, we'll be performing an analysis of P-card purchases, as well as supporting documentation. So with respect to the internal audit plan for 23-24, you can take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pilkey?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions. In the original, when the decision was to do school operational audits, was the original plan always to 25 a year, or was it more initially? 50 a year, 25 a term?
Yes, through the chair, initially the plan was to do 25 audits per school semester,
Right.
but that was with 3 staff. But we only have 2 senior auditors right now, and we felt that we still should be able to provide at least 1 report per learning network to the superintendents. But in order not to end up with an odd number, we would use the other staff to do specified procedures over school-generated funds.
All right, thank you. And going to the P card audit, what is the value of money spent on P cards for the entire board?
Last year was approximately a little bit over $4 million, with about 27,000 transactions and about 3,500 cardholders.
So $4 million on a budget of $3.4 billion. Can you tell us how the P card decision was made?
Through the chair, we were requested by management to do a quick analysis over this. So what we did is just a data analytic, but we're not actually requesting source documents at this time. It's just a high-level analysis to break it down. I think one of the major concerns was P card purchases from vendors where we already had a contract and crystallized pricing, and the risk that was identified that we might be overpaying at a retail level versus ordering through the purchase order system.
Okay. It just doesn't seem like a very high dollar value for very limited resources available, through you, Madam Chair. Very limited resources available to this department now, to be looking at $4 million of purchases, even though many very small ones. So it's interested to know the risk profile that made this decision.
Thank
Given
you.
the-
I'll go to
given-
Executive Officer
Sorry, through
Snyder.
you. Anyways, given the type of issues that have arisen from actual school audits, I'm interested in that seem to be a much higher risk. Just from the appearance of this, I'm interested in the risk profile that made this decision. Like, what was the thinking?
Through you, Madam Chair, while it is a small dollar risk, there is a lot of cards out in the system, and it's a concentration training challenge to make sure everybody understands that they should be using our vendors that have been approved by the board to purchase. So we still feel it's an area that needs some focus to ensure that while we understand it's not a high dollar risk, we are concerned about the reputational risk and the risk of not monitoring this with a large number of employees with cards out in circulation.
Through you, Madam Chair. To staff, presumably P cards are limited to how much you can spend on them. So the risk of what can be spent on them is limited. Is it not true? Is it not set up that way?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, there are limits on it per transaction, but we do notice one of the things we're still struggling with, for example, is splitting of purchases. So, and I don't have the transaction values in my mind, but let's say a card has a $500 limit per transaction. Some people will take a $1,000 purchase and try to do it over two purchases on the P card. So we still are seeing some issues there. And like I say, with a large number of new staff, it's an area of focus. It's not the primary area, but it is an area of focus for our internal audit department. And if Wasif wants to add anything, happy to have him expand.
To the chair, I do think it's there is some exposure there, especially from a reputational side, and I do also like to say in terms of driving accountability, it's good. We propose to request business rationale for questionable purchases from the approver of the P card and not necessarily the submitter of the P card statements.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. There'll be a report coming on this then in sometime in 2025, I assume?
Through the chair, there will be. There's also a private update for the request that we were working on this summer as well.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pilkey. Are there any other questions on this particular report? Seeing and hearing none, may I please have a motion to receive? Thank you very much, Trustee Pay, seconded by Trustee Arts. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then that's carried. Thank you very much. 10.3 is the school operational audit 2022-2023 summary.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 10.3, the 22-23 school operational audit summary report, beginning on agenda page 89. From October to June, we visited 27 schools and tested operational, financial, and enrollment reporting controls. Each school was provided with an individual school operational audit report, including school action plans. The report was distributed to the principal and to the school superintendent. In August, the 22-23 summary was shared with senior leadership, and internal audit was also invited to discuss the report at 3 learning network meetings, as well as with the director and associate director meeting table. The report is structured to provide the context of the control being tested, a summary of our observations and recommendations, as well as hyperlinks to various references within our intranet to assist in addressing the opportunity noted for improvement. Agenda page 90 lists the high-frequency observations noted in the year. There remain challenges with maintaining current listings of IT assets, logging fire and lockdown drills, following up with safe arrival protocols, as well as visitor log maintenance. I guess this is a case in point. Early in September, we had someone enter the schools, and they were able to walk around unfeathered. Moving on to financial controls, we noted that almost 2/3 of purchase card statements were not reviewed or approved as required, with the risk being that unallowed purchases are being incurred. Next, with respect to the student nutrition program, I would like to say that the student nutrition program is not a part of Tdsb, nor is it a part of the Toronto Foundation for Student Success, which distributes the funding. It is a separate entity unto itself. So internal audit reviews the student nutrition program from a perspective of the risk back to the board. With that in mind, the 2 common risks are payments made to individuals that may be interpreted as income by the CRA, with requirements to have source deductions remitted. So the risk is that if the CRA interprets something as income and no source deductions are remitted, technically the director of the organization is personally liable. And in this case, that would come back to the employee of the board or the board itself. The other risk that we have tried to address with the schools is the amount of funds that have built up in these accounts during school closures. So at the end of the 2022 school year, there was a little bit over $17 million in the student nutrition accounts that are housed at TDSB locations. So we believe there's an opportunity to utilize these funds to address food insecurity. However, we do note that there may be challenges due to restrictions associated with the funding. There continue to be opportunities to improve collection and disbursement procedures, which could be mitigated by an increased utilization of school cash online. We also noted that student-generated funds total just above $13 million at the end of the 2022 school year. We noted that there were instances where expenditures were incurred via the school budget, such as entry fees and school buses. However, the budget was not reimbursed from the school-generated fund account, contributing to some of the buildup of funds. We also noted that there's a significant budget surplus carryover at the beginning of the prior school year, a little less than $30 million, which could be attributed to school closures from prior years. However, there may be needs at the school that remain unfulfilled while the budget is available. With respect to enrollment, we're hoping that absence tracking will improve with the use of the new Power School attendance module in the student information system, which has many more attendance codes and should reduce the amount of unknown absences recorded in the system. With that, I can take any questions at this time.
Thank you.
Chair. Associate Directors Stacy Zucker would like to make a comment on some of the findings.
Please.
Thank you, and through the chair, I just wanted to add that that this is an important document that we will use to be able to assist us in providing training to our administrators, especially new administrators, and to our office staff. We have many new office staff as well, so we will be using the findings to be able to communicate not only sort of the most or the findings that came up the most, but also to provide best practices through webinars to our principals and to help us to assist in the training. In addition, the director will be personally through the director's office sending an email to our administrators with regards to some of the issues that were raised and ensuring that things like the fire drills and lockdown procedures are practices are happening. So again, we take this very seriously. This does help to inform us. We do know that because we had a significant and continue to have a significant number of new staff in new positions, this will inform training moving forward. And again, I will add that in coming from two other boards, the things that you see come up here are not, I would say, specific to Tdsb. They are similar to issues that other boards have across the province when they have these audits.
Thank you very much. There was a question on this item again submitted by Joy, and I wanted to raise it. She said, opportunities associated with operational audits have increased significantly, and while schools have begun improvement plans, she was wondering if internal audit ever does a post-assessment of their progress.
Through the chair, in this audit plan, we do plan, in this coming audit year, we do plan on conducting all audit follow-ups of previously conducted school operational audit reports.
Thank you very much. And just to follow up, if you'll indulge me, I like the idea of the director writing to principals about the common issues to ensure they're aware of them. And I know that school improvement plans are very public with 3 goals. Is there an internal school improvement plan that's not public but just has to do with internal processes and management as opposed to the external student-based issues that we ask for school improvement plans? I'm just wondering, I don't know the answer to that question, so it's a follow-up. I'm wondering if staff can answer that.
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe we have that answer tonight, but we can take it back and bring it to the Audit Committee in December.
Thank you very much. It just made something to consider. Are there any other questions on this particular audit? Seeing and hearing none, may I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? Thank you, Trustee Pay. Trustee Arts, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, then that's received. Thank you very much. Moving on to 10.4, the Student Information System Data Migration Testing Report.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 10.4, the Student Information System Data Migration Testing Report. As we know, the board has transitioned to a new student information system with updates being provided to the audit committee since November 2020 by the ITIM group. So in order to provide assurance over the data migration from the old student information system to the new system, internal audit tested a sample of secondary student data that was migrated. During our testing of the initial samples, we noted some anomalies with inactive students based on how PowerSchool calculated the compulsory courses and graduation plans. This was addressed by the migration team, and internal audit expanded its sample to test additional secondary student records migrated, where the Ontario Secondary School Diploma was awarded. So from our expanded sample testing, we determined that the Trillium Student Information System to Power School Student Information System migration was complete and accurate with respect to total credits, courses, designations, as well as the marks awarded. So based on our testing, we concluded that the data records migrated were both complete and accurate, and therefore the report did not contain any specific recommendations. So I can take any questions at this time.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd just like to provide another update, an oral update on the Power Schools and the ONSYS migration of data to the ministry system. So just for trustees' understanding, ONSYS is the ministry's enrollment system where we have to migrate our data from Power Schools to ONSYS. It helps the ministry do its calculations as well as our funding. So the work in migration to Power Schools, obviously, you understand, is a huge change management issue, and we are behind on our ONSYS submissions to the ministry. We formed a work group in the May timeframe to work on this. We've met with the ministry from May through current to get the work done. And at the beginning of the summer, we had set a goal of trying to complete our ONSYS submission by August 31st. Due to technical issues as well as staffing issues, that work didn't get completed. Our new timeline is complete October and March submissions by the end of this month. We are on track for that, and we're doing weekly reporting both to the Ministry of Education on our status as well as to our executive team. We do see a path to get that work done by the end of September, and then there's a subsequent report called the June report, which will be completed by the end of October, which meets the ministry's timelines and objectives. When we are completed this work and we have done a full analysis of the transition to Power Schools, you will have a report coming back here to tell you what changes and mitigations we've done to ensure that going forward on a regular basis, ONSYS is completed in a timely manner. So I just want to provide that update to the committee.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions on this particular report? Seeing and hearing none, motion please to receive. Thank you, Trustee Art, seconded by Trustee Pay. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. On to 10.5, the Cyber Risk Assessment Process Review Report.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 10.5, the Cyber Risk Assessment Process Review Report, beginning on agenda page 119. So in our current environment, there's an increased reliance on cyber-based solutions to deliver curriculum. In response, the Tdsb IT has a cybersecurity team which assesses IT security and privacy risks related to those solutions educators wish to utilize. The objective of the engagement was to ensure that thorough assessments were conducted, risks were appropriately identified, evaluated, and addressed, with necessary security and privacy controls being implemented to safeguard Tdsb systems, networks, and data. So in addition, we gained an understanding of the cyber risk management process related to non-standard digital initiatives and provided suggestions for potential enhancements as the program is migrated to a new governance, risk, and compliance software later this fall. So from an overall perspective, the program was effectively designed to assess and conclude on cybersecurity and privacy-related risks with respect to non-standard digital initiatives. The process for identifying, monitoring, and responding to cyber threats and incidents has also been strengthened. However, with any program, there are opportunities to further develop and mature the program, establish accountability, improve risk management, and make key stakeholders aware of digital tools already available. There's also an opportunity to further develop automation by investigating the interoperability of the governance, risk, and compliance module, which will be coming online in the fall of this year, with the contract life cycle management solution currently being customized. So I can take any questions at this time with respect to this report.
Thank you very much. I'll start off with another question from Joy. She's asking, she'd like to better understand how cyber risk falls under the overall risk register, and what are the plans by management to have another discussion review of the risk register with the committee again?
So through you, Madam Chair, that's something we are working on, refreshing the risk register right now. I would suggest it'll be in the new year that we will be able to bring a revised risk register to the audit committee.
Thank you very much. Do any other members or other trustees have questions? Thank you, Trustee Arts.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, I think it's aside to this report, what is the communication to staff, like teaching staff, who want to take on new software or digital pieces for their classrooms in terms of getting an audit done ahead of time? I know, especially for younger students, teachers like to use little connectivity apps to connect parents to the classroom, as opposed to sometimes using Google Meet. Or I think there's been, since we've adopted more standardized programming, there's been a move away from a bunch of these little apps, but they still pop up from time to time. So what is the communication that goes to school-based staff in terms of using approved technology?
So through the chair, requests are usually received through the purchasing department, who contacts the cybersecurity team as part of their process, which initiates the assessment prior to the procurement moving forward, or a decision being made as to move forward to it or not. So that is the main catch basin, as you could say, if someone is using a non-standard software or cyber solution. So usually it's not for free. There's a subscription involved. There's some sort of payment. So in order to generate the payment, they have to go and issue a PO. But at that point in time is when the assessment is conducted prior to the services going live.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, please. Yeah, through the chair. No, I'm thinking in terms of some of these apps are free for, like, parents just sign up with an account, and teachers can use them for a period of time. So I'm just wondering if there's a communication that goes to staff preemptively, like if they're not purchasing or they found a fun free new app. Lots of different apps launch, free when they start, to attract business, maybe to prevent them from going that route.
Through the chair, it's my understanding that the IT Executive Office issues emails regularly, and especially in the beginning of the school year, there's a reminder for folks to make sure that they're using board-approved cyber solutions. And if they're not, then it indicates that there's a process for them to follow.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll ask,
thank you.
Executive Officer Singh's online as well, could answer any questions you have.
Mr. Singh?
Through you, Madam Chair, exactly what Wasa was sharing with you. We have a process in place, and we do regularly communicate with the system through our IT Weekly update bulletin, and informing schools what to look for when they're actually trying to jump on these so-called free apps. Nothing is free, but we'll call it free because they're not paying any monies for licensing, because some of the staff members do not understand the implications that the free application, when something goes wrong, the school district does not have a relationship with their vendor. Teacher individually might have signed up, and the vendor does not have any rules in place to inform TDSB the breach has happened, if that happens on their side itself. So we do inform schools, telling them, you have to be very careful when you click yes to these one, because you're binding us as an organization, not yourself as an individual. And you have to understand, where is the data going? What kind of data they're taking from us? So over the years, the system has gotten better and better, but I will say it's not 100% clean at this stage. There will be few individuals who might still say, you know what, I'm just love this new tool. It saves me so much time, I'm going to proceed with it. So we work through the leadership at the schools to inform the teachers, saying this is the rules established, you have to follow these. If you have something that needs to be installed on your environment, just follow the process around cyber risk assessment we do. And there is a service catalog available through our client service desks for them to even trigger that process. So quite a number of helpful tools are in place. And we continue to talk about safety around data at every opportunity we get at a system level through even our digital lead learners get-togethers, which is 4 times a year. Thank you.
Anything
Thank
further?
you. No, that's it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Trustee Pay.
Chair, I have a questions for the staff is, what's the total budget for this cyber attack risk prevention? Yeah, the board budget, because when you do prevent the cyber attack or risk, you probably need a certain software, right? You had to purchase software, to understand, you need to purchase software, you purchase licensing and make sure, every computer or the system equipped with that, right? Am I correct or am I wrong?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll ask Mr. Singh to speak to the software and the budgets associated with protecting our cybersecurity.
When we look at overall IT budget, there's a subset of that one that's assigned to the cybersecurity team itself. I don't have the precise dollar value that this is what's dedicated to it. Trustee Pay raises an important concern around cyber attacks and things like that one. Our philosophy has been over the years that it's a 4-pronged approach to mitigate the risk for the organization. Tools play one part of that strategy itself. And the second one is having the right vendor partners too in place, because you will need help when things go wrong. The third piece is having the right skilled people, part of that team, to mitigate the risks. They need to understand the cyber risk landscape very well. The fourth piece is the overall organization is responsible for that. The cyber risk mitigation is not the job of Peter Singh or the 4, 5, 6 people or 8 people working in cyber risk team or the IT department itself. Every staff member who actually works at this organization is responsible for us to mitigate that risk, because the attack can come in any form, through any mailbox at any time itself too. So we take this for the culture, changing the culture of the shop, and continuously emailing, informing people, running phishing campaigns internally are all part of changing the culture at the organization, because people need to be informed. So that's the approach we've been taking around the cyber risk mitigation side of things.
So what kind of training you provide, on the regular basis to the staff to try to prevent that kind of cyber attack?
We do not have pull them into a class kind of strategy. We actually communicate through emails, informing them when we see campaigns, external campaigns hitting us, or you can call them external attacks, phishing attacks, or ransomware attacks. We do communicate, and also at the same time, we regularly run our own internal phishing campaigns too, to make sure people are not clicking on these URLs and just trying to explore where it's going to take them. So they're well informed how to actually see an email if there are any errors in it. And there are multiple errors we put in there, because we learn from external attacks how they're trying to get into our environment and trying to create a similar look and feel kind of internal phishing attack, so people can get better at it. I remember now looking at the data over time, the number of people who actually fall for these external phishing attacks is been shrinking, and people are getting better at it. But we do not have a classroom kind of focus. Once they click on that internal phishing attack, we do take them to a video, which is internally posted to inform that you've been phished, and you should have taken these precautions to protect yourself and Tdsb also.
So in terms of selecting different vendors for licensing agreement, how do you approach that? Or what's the current, company's name regarding those, antivirus licensing?
Trustee Pei, I will not be sharing that information in a public forum.
Uh-huh.
It's part of the zero trust strategy I have. Unless I have a relationship with a vendor, I do not share security details. So your question is about vendors and products. I cannot share those in a public forum. So then other piece is around how do we pick? We follow the public broader procurement rules, which is again, if we need a service or a solution, we actually do an RFP process in the market. The companies bid on it. So we pick the best solution that will fit us. And part of that best solution, we also go through a proof of concept with the vendor before we work with the legal department to sign a contract. So it's a regular procurement process we follow and work with legal and procurement teams to get to the right solution that will be servicing our shop.
Wasif, you have some comment?
Yes, may I suggest that we include the cyber internal control environment in an upcoming education session, where we can provide sort of a wholesome presentation to the committee to outline the controls we have in place.
Okay.
In the new
Okay,
year.
wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That would be excellent. Appreciated. Are there any other questions on this particular report? Seeing and hearing none, a mover, please. Thank you, Trustee Pei, seconded by Trustee Arts. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Now we're on the last of these series of internal audit reports, 10.6. This is the Regional Internal Audit Team, the engagement and status update.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll ask our Regional Auditor, Paula Hatt, to present this item.
Thank you. Through the chair, for this meeting, I have prepared our regular update on the status of planned engagements and other things that we're working on. As well, I've included the RIAT annual report. So our status update starts on page 115 of the agenda package. We have 4 engagements that are outstanding from previous years. Since the previous meeting, we've not had a lot of forward momentum due to summer vacations, but we are starting to pick up things now. The first engagement is the succession planning toolkit. So the report for this engagement has been reviewed by management, and it is now being shared with the director and associate directors before issuance. My hope is that this report will be ready for the next meeting. Disability case management was added to our plan through an amendment at the last meeting, and we are currently looking to book meetings with management to help us develop our scope and engagement for our scope and objective for the engagement. Planning has also started for the incident reporting engagement. My team has been holding meetings with management in order to help develop the objective and scope. We are also hoping to start planning in the near future for the student human rights complaints management engagement. The current year engagements are touched on in the annual report. So moving on to the follow-up, we are currently in the process of obtaining updates on the findings included in previously issued audit reports. And this update will be used to identify follow-up activities that our team can undertake this fall. As we have included in our annual report, our goal is to conduct a minimum of 2 follow-up engagements at each board, but we do hope to exceed that amount. So finally, I have prepared the RIAT annual report, which starts on page 117. So this is something that we are sharing annually with each audit committee in our region, with some customization for each board. So the purpose of this report is to help us better conform to both internal audit standards and the RIAT charter by communicating some necessary information. So this report is similar to the one that I produced last year, but I do have some additional information this time. So I won't go through the whole thing, but I did want to point out a few items. The first is the RIAT charter that is referred to at the bottom of page 117. This was presented back at the February meeting, and the next step is to have this charter signed by myself, the director or a designate, and the audit committee chair, as we will need to have a signed charter in place in advance of our external QA review that will be happening in the next fiscal year. A copy of the charter has been included as an appendix to the annual report on page 122, and we will do this every year going forward as a refresher. Now, at the bottom of page 119, new to the report this year is the reporting on the Quality Assurance and Improvement Program. So as we do plan to do an external assessment within the next year, we've started conducting an internal readiness assessment. So out of the 52 standards, we noted conformance with 36, partial conformance with 8, and non-conformance with 1. So there were 7 standards, not 8, that were not applicable to the REACT. For the 9 cases of either partial or non-conformance, we have outlined 6 action plans on how we intend to address these and achieve conformance. So that's in the second appendix to the report. On page 120, I noted that student achievement and student accommodation are the 2 engagements that we have included in our plan for the current year. Now, given that it is the second year of our plan, I do want to make sure that the committee has no concerns with the plan as stated, but it was based on the most recent version of the board's risk register. Finally, I wanted to update the audit committee on the funds for additional engagement section further down on the page. So during the last year, the board submitted requests for reimbursement for the 2 projects outlined, and that totaled approximately $275K, which leaves a remaining balance of about $189K, which management does intend to use going forward. So this concludes my update, and I would be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Pilkey.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Ms. Pat. Couple questions on concerning page 115 of your report. Basically, if I understand this correctly, the strategic workforce planning will have taken 18 months to complete. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
Is that the average length that it takes to get the work done and the responses and the report to the committee?
Absolutely not. I think there were just some delays in that there were other things happening as well. And unfortunately, it was just a little bit difficult to kind of get the time that we needed. But going forward with the current crop of engagements, we are looking to move the time to shorten the timeline on those so that we can get to the committee as fast as possible.
Thank you. Through you again, further questioning, what is that expected? What would be your expected time or your I understand the desire to get it done more quickly. Just what is the timing that you are feeling is reasonable?
Through the chair, given that we're just starting planning at this point, I wouldn't think that we'd see them for the December meeting. That would be the succession planning that would come forward. I'm hoping to get probably 2 reports for the March meeting. That would be my timeframe, my anticipated timeframe.
All right, so the hope is that it's March. Okay,
correct.
That would be good because I think this is an unusually long amount of time, and I question whether there is any benefit to the board at the point when a report is 18 months after the work started. So I would hope that you are able to do that on a much quicker basis, considering these 2 reports have been transferred to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to also comment as well on that through the chair for this particular succession planning engagement. This, again, was a risk that had come up on the risk register as well. So it is something, although it's taken us a while to get to, it is absolutely something that is still current and that the board was looking to implement themselves as well. So obviously, again, we much prefer a much shorter timeline, but we are working towards tightening those timelines for future engagements.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions on this particular report? Seeing and hearing none, may I please have a mover to receive this? Thank you, Trustee Pay, Trustee Arts. All in favor? Any opposed? Then that is received. Thank you. And then there is an item for information only on the work tracker, and I'm not sure procedurally is that discussed?
Chair, if you're looking for comment, that would, of course, be on the will of the committee if there's a desire to discuss. It is
Thank
on the
you.
agenda for receipt.
Thank you. So this is on for receipt. Staff, do you want to speak to this?
No, through you, Madam Chair, I'll just turn over to Wasu to say.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 11.1, the committee work tracker for information. The work tracker basically outlines the requirements of Ontario Regulation 36110 with respect to the duties of the audit committee. And we aim to ensure that from a compliance perspective that we meet those regulations. This September tracker includes the election of the chair, the annual committee reports, the self-assessment, as well as the annual whistleblower report has been reflected.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on the work tracker? Seeing and hearing none, may I please then have a motion to receive it? Thank you to the two trustees in the room, Trustee Pay and Trustee Arts. All in favor? Any opposed? Then that work tracker is received. And now may I have a motion to move into private session, please? Trustee Arts, seconded by Trustee Pay. The door is being closed. If staff just survey who's online, I believe, is everyone good?
Yes, everybody's good. We'll just make sure we're shut down the public session.
We're just waiting to shut down the public, but we are not. Can we start?